In my last video, I argued that professional wrestlers are ideologues of culture, race, and class, how they function as implicit conduits for a wrestling promotion's social commentary. Today, we'll be examining one match as it pertains to the WWE, how it's shaped and has been shaped by the political moment in 2026. The night is April 1st, 2007 at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. There's a cadence being orchestrated from the crowd, cheers, boos, and everything in between, as a wrestling match descends into a flurry of low blows and outside interferences. Two businessmen shout at two wrestlers struggling to catch their breaths, two referees writhe in pain, and two commentators attempt to tell the 1.2 million watching at home a story as it's unfolding. With over 74,000 fans in attendance, the cacophony is inaudible. It's impossible to hear what one audience member is heckling from another, though the signs being waved indicate what's at stake. One reads caricature with puckered lips and the pompadour reading, "Lashley, save my hair." The main event tonight is the ECW World Champion Bobby Lashley vs. Umaga, also billed as Battle of the Billionaires. In one corner is Vince McMahon, the then owner of WWE, as he berates one of the writhing referees. He shouts over and over as he hunches down and points his finger at him, "Why didn't you call it like I told you to?" The referee in question is none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. The camera rests on the medium shot of Vince and Austin as the volume of the crowd slowly builds. Suddenly, the man from the other side of the ring jumps from behind the frame and into the shot, tackling Vince, then gripping him by the throat as he punches Vince in the head. That man's name is Donald Trump. The roof comes off the arena. Commentator Jim Ross declares,
"The hostile takeover of Donald Trump on Vince McMahon has happened at WrestleMania 23.
In other words, revolution. Trump catches his breath as Austin comes to his senses. He ducks under Umaga's finishing move, the Samoan Spike, before hitting Umaga with his own finisher, the Stunner. Umaga staggers onto and bounces off the ropes as Lashley stands, sparing him to get the 1-2-3 count from Austin. The bell rings and the camera cuts to Trump raising his fist in triumph. Lashley saved his hair. Per the stipulations of the match, the losing billionaire would be forced to have his hair shaved in front of a live audience. Sure enough, Ford Field rejoices as Vince is strapped limb by limb into a barber chair. Lashley and Trump begin to take safety razors to his pompadour, Austin drinking a beer in the background. Where to begin? The fact that this storyline had been built up for months on WWE's titular Monday Night Raw, the fact that Austin, an icon of working class America, came out of retirement to officiate the match, the fact that this storyline is in an intertextual dialogue to previous storylines featuring him and the McMahons, going as far back as the 1990s. Or, what of the fact that two white businessmen had two wrestlers of color represent them in what would otherwise be considered a blood sport? What of the fact that this match was sold as a main event? What of the fact that this storyline continues with Vince wearing a durag, appropriating African American vernacular English, and beating Lashley for the ECW World Championship? What of the fact that is Donald Trump? First, one has to grant legitimacy to the imagination of professional wrestling, a medium where the fabula of its texts are inextricable from violence and the obfuscation of fiction from reality. It's here where the words literature and theater suddenly feel large, weighty to something often regarded as fake or lowbrow, never mind the fact that professional wrestling is one of the only arts still accessible to the United States' working class. At a time when the average paperback costs $17.95 and the US federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, when the middle classes are becoming more and more subsumed by those below them, the average American has greater accessibility to Austin's storylines on YouTube than one does to, say, Plato's dialogues on wrestling. And given academia's propensities to use the words literature, theater, and craft as euphemisms to uphold Anglo-American aesthetics and sensibilities, a cultural hierarchy rooted in the values of its monarchical and oligarchic elite, I will grant it. In the past couple of years, there have been several public instances where the WWE intersected or directly collaborated with the Trump administration. The first was the inauguration of Linda McMahon, former CEO of the WWE, as the head of the Department of Education. By the time Trump won his second term after the 2024 election, McMahon was the chair of the America First Policy Institute, a far right think tank and lobby group built on the, you guessed it, American First agenda. In the AFPI's campaign to nominate McMahon for the position, the group stresses key issues such as opposing federal overreach in education and handing educational affairs to the states, both of which under the veneer of parental rights. Since being appointed, she's gone on an open and public crusade to dismantle the Department of Education in its entirety. Because when the AFPI says McMahon opposes political indoctrination in classrooms, they mean teaching any history that would implicate the Republican Party of racism. The second was the return of Brock Lesnar at the 2025 SummerSlam pay-per-view after a 2-year hiatus. After Cody Rhodes defeated John Cena for the WWE Championship in the main event, Lesnar's music hits as he parades himself down the ramp to assault Cena. The storyline here is less important. What matters is the shock of his return, as in 2024, Lesnar's name was one of several mentioned in a sex trafficking case against Vince McMahon. Filed in the U.S. District Court of Connecticut, Janelle Grant was a former employee of the WWE, alleging being trafficked by McMahon to various WWE executives and superstars, including Lesnar. When the case was filed in 2024, there were 40 pages of documents. By April 3, 2026, the case was amended to over 130 pages. Lesnar would retire at WrestleMania 42 just 16 days later, the WWE quickly selling t-shirts saying "Thank you, Lesnar" on their online store, only to return just a few weeks later on Monday Night Raw. You see, the entire framework that American politics is like professional wrestling isn't a new or original one, but a tried and true lens to examine the spectacle and bombast in which the state and its pundits behave publicly. The comparison made by those who've used this framework before me was always meant to be figurative, never literal. That's what it was supposed to illustrate. Professional wrestlers and bookers don't literally become politicians. Politicians don't literally tackle their business rivals in the main event of WrestleMania 23 until they do.
I'm just going to speed skate like the Olympics through 2023 because I promise you, this keeps building up. There are people living and working in fear here in Connecticut, and there is a headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut right now that is full of intimidated people that I care very much about. 3 years and 5 law firms cannot get answers about who, what, when, where, or why I breached. If anybody perceived it, they haven't shared it, and I felt like I was being punished for even working with the feds. In March of 2023, I got 2 things from the SEC. I got a subpoena, and I got whistleblower status.
The hyper-exaggerations of kayfabe are becoming more and more literalized. The reason Linda McMahon can brazenly admit to disenfranchising students of color, the reason the WWE can parade an alleged sex trafficking client like Lesnar during the biggest wrestling show in the world, is because the far right fears no consequence. The Trump administration doesn't just have power, it has all the power to pardon ghouls, dismiss cases, abolish departments, and punish those who dare resist those efforts. It's why ICE agents can terrorize the Eddie Guerreros of the Americas while posturing themselves as the next CM Punk. It's why the average response to a tabloid about a controversial Trump quote is either, "Did he really say that?" or "Was that real?"
Pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States. I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it.
And I look at this moment at WrestleMania 23 and see not just the culmination of an episodic storyline, but a new vanguard. I see Vince McMahon, the ideologue of corporate America and oligarchy, usurped by a man who, despite being of said oligarchy, touts himself as of the people, a symbol of American exceptionalism and grit. He gives the working class audience what they want, and the working class audience, in turn, accepts him for it. It's the moment when Donald Trump champions himself as the icon of America's downtrodden, and the working class audience in attendance answers by becoming his political base. When commentator Jim Ross proclaims the hostile takeover of Donald Trump on Vince McMahon has happened at WrestleMania 23, I'm reminded that not every revolution promises a better system. What we have aren't just stories of institutional critique anymore. That institutional critique is institutionalized and industrialized, a product sold back to the working class audience that is at once the bulk of the WWE's fandom, the Trump administration's core voting demographic, and the wrestling storylines' co author. The WWE that commodifies stories of working class triumph, while collaborating with an administration that routinely disenfranchises on the base of class and race, is the same promotion that commodifies the retirement of an alleged sex trafficking client and makes millions from it. Professional wrestling isn't like the United States. It's not even about the United States. It is the United States. What I mean is, kayfabe, in regards to how it's been adopted into far right rhetoric and politics, has completely collapsed into governance. There's no parsing the iconography of Cody Rhodes and Tiffany Stratton, faces within the WWE, as faces for the Trump administration. There's nothing stopping Linda McMahon from shaping pedagogy into a whitewashed all American mythos. There's no separation between the Donald Trump character at WrestleMania 23 and the ideologue of American exceptionalism currently serving as the 47th President of the United States. What we're watching in both professional wrestling and American politics is an empire in the twilight of its life, telling a story of national excellence in an effort to coast out its own collapse. The American far right saw the mythos within kayfabe as a noun and co opted it as a verb to obfuscate meaning and policy during administrative public appearances. The working class base, continually moving the goalposts for every failed promise made by Trump, is doing so, in part, because any acknowledgement of this administration's failings and cronyism is to acknowledge the state of disrepair the United States is actually in. And that's the story of this empire, the perpetual passing of the torch, the light of a better tomorrow always promised, until that light flames out. Is that relay of the torch scripted or real? Who knows?